Hello, my name is Cynthia Van Ness, Director of the Library and Archives at the Buffalo History Museum, and today I'm recording the fourth visit of Mabel Barnes to the Pan-American Exposition in 1901 from her scrapbook, Peeps at the Pan-American. Fourth visit, Friday, July 5th, 1901. This was the opening day of the convention of the New York State Teachers Association. I was placed on the refreshment committee for the reception to be given in the New York State Building in the evening. At 9 a.m., I went to the Central High School to receive my pass into the exposition grounds and then proceeded thither, entering the Elmwood Gate about 10. It was raining slightly, but soon it ceased. I walked over to Mr. Cornett's office in the stadium to leave the box containing my gown for the evening, and then began my day's sightseeing going to the government building. The United States government building, more than any other on the grounds, is Spanish-American in its architecture, directly suggesting the type of the Mexican church. It closely resembles the great cathedral of the City of Mexico. The ground plan consists of a large center building, 418 feet by 130 feet, and two flanking pavilions, 150 feet square, connecting the center building by semicircular arcades. A dome 250 feet above the floor crowns the center of the main building, which is made picturesque also by numerous small towers and gilded domes and the wise use of Mexican gables at the north and south ends. The stately portico fronting on the Esplanade is suggestive of the United States Capitol at Washington. The building is ornamented with sculptures called Peace and Law. The former is a draped female figure holding a palm, the latter a draped female figure holding an open book above her head, while at her feet sit armed male figures symbolic of the power which executes the law's mandates. Surmounting the blue dome is a quadriga, or four-horsed chariot, in which stands a chariot driver holding in one hand a branch of palm and in the other a wreath of laurel. I first watched the United States artillery troops handle the seacoast artillery. This shows the four types of defense guns. The largest of these is a 12-inch rifle weighing 115,000 pounds, mounted on a disappearing carriage which weighs 350,000 pounds. It is one of those guns that can drive a 1,000-pound projectile 25 inches into solid steel armor at a distance of 1.5 miles. It takes 240 pounds of smokeless powder to fire it. Next, I visited the Department of Agriculture, which occupies the left pavilion of the government building. The southwest corner is given up to the Philippine exhibit. This exhibit is very complete, showing the implements used by the natives in warfare, agriculture, fishing, hunting, weaving, and embroidering, the manner of cultivating sugar and rice with specimens of agricultural products, the manner of weaving cloth, cooking utensils, tools used by carpenters, blacksmiths, tinsmiths, basket and harness makers, a collection of musical instruments, furniture, articles of dress, and models of houses, boats, and land conveyances. There is also a fine collection of photographs illustrating the flora and views of the islands and the different types of natives, including Spanish and Chinese mestizos, Tagals, Moros, Tinguiñanes, Mariales, Aguerotes, and Negritos. There is an exhibit of schoolwork in Spanish and English. At 12:30, I ate my lunch in the East Esplanade Court. This contains a sunken garden, beautiful with flowers and fountains and set with graceful sculptures. The theme of the sculpture is symbolic of man and the development of his institutions. In this court, accordingly, are the fountains of Man, of Prometheus, and of Hercules. The Fountain of Man is composed of a number of groups surmounted by the single figure, Man the Mysterious, portrayed with two faces and two bodies, emblematic of the two natures of man. It is partly veiled, creating the impression of mysterious dignity. The pedestal upon which the figure stands is borne by a striking group typifying the five senses. Below this is a lower basin, and outlined against its cavernous shadows may be discerned through the dripping waters the virtues struggling with the vices. The whole rises to a height of 53 feet. On the south side of the basin, the Fountain of Hercules, typifying man's physical strength, and in the corresponding position on the north side, the Fountain of Prometheus, typifying man's intellectual power. Carrying out the theme of man's development from a savage state to an enlightened one, placed near the fountain of man are two groups called the Savage Age. That on the south side consists of a group of Aboriginal warriors armed with rude weapons and surrounding a female captive in an attitude of attack. A savage woman with a headdress of feathers is beating a drum while a child lies dead beside her. The north group consists of a band of Goths who are bearing away the captive woman whose protectors they have slain. The second subject of sculpture is called the Despotic Age. In this, on the south side, a despot is forcing his subjects to pull the chariot of state. The four figures pulling represent the different ages of man: childhood, youth, maturity, and old age, and show that there's no consideration for any under the rule of the tyrant. They also represent the diverse characters of man: youth protesting against slavery, typifying the intelligence of the liberty-seeking class; old age, more submissive. Cruelty, the companion spirit of tyranny, is shown on a figure holding the reins in one hand and with the other applying the lash, thus intensifying the humiliation of the oppressed. The female figures, gagged and bound by the tyrant and dragged behind the chariot, symbolize the ideals of humanity. In the north group, the spirit of despotism with relentless cruelty spreads her wings over the people of the despotic age, crushing them with the burden of war and conquest and dragging along the victims of rapine. A half-savage figure sounds a spiral horn in a spirit of wild exultation. Man's age of enlightenment symbolizes the intellectual character of an enlightened age. A female figure representing learning sits with an open scroll on her knee and instructs a boy and girl. On one side is a figure with a lyre representing the arts. A palette and the masks of comedy and tragedy are at her feet. In her left hand she holds a laurel wreath. On the other side is science, with one hand resting on a globe and the other on a book. The second group represents the security and happiness of the family relation in an age of enlightenment. A laurel-crowned figure, symbolic of peace and social order, holds a baby in her lap, while the young mother bends over it from one side and the father from the other. On the steps of the pedestal sits a female figure, symbolic of the church, and a male figure, symbolic of law. Around the semicircular space in front of the government building is a half circle of shrines containing sculptures, most of which are reproductions of ancient Greek and Roman art. Among them are Vulcan, Narcissus, Venus coming from the bath, etc. After resting a while in the court, I went back to the Department of Agriculture. The northwest corner of the building is occupied by the Weather Bureau. Here, all of the machinery for the making of weather maps is shown, and I watched the entire process. I met Mr. Cuthbertson, our local weather prophet, and he and the head printer very kindly explained every part of the construction of the maps, including the first pencil drawing, the transferring to the lithographic stone, and the final printing. The exhibit also includes the different instruments used in taking the temperature, gauging the amount of rain and snowfall, observing clouds and irrigation. Part of the northeast corner is occupied by the Bureau of Forestry and the divisions of entomology, pomology, vegetable pathology, etc. Here are displayed mounted specimens of the insects injurious to forest trees and sections of wood affected by fungus growths and other diseases, mounted specimens of insects injurious to farm products, grasses and grains of the United States, and lifelike wax models of all of the fruits grown in our country. The southeast corner of the building is occupied by the divisions of microscopy, chemistry, and ornithology and mammalogy, and the Bureau of Animal Industry. The exhibits here consist of the process of making beet sugar, the various products of milk, canned vegetables, all of the varieties of grass seed and the seeds of weeds sometimes substituted, specimens of diseased meats, and pure and adulterated foods such as pure currant jelly and so-called pure currant jelly, sweetened with glucose, stiffened with starch, colored with aniline dyes, and artificially flavored. There are also models of meat affected by various diseases, models of stockyards, trains, and steamers for the transportation of cattle, and pens for sheep washing. Next, I visited the main part of the government building. The northwest corner is occupied by the exhibits of the Smithsonian Institution and the National Museum. These exhibits included those of the departments of geology, biology, and anthropology. In the Department of Geology are collections of all the geological specimens found in this country. In the Department of Biology are mounted specimens of our native birds, fish, and animals. Among them, the prehistoric specimens are skeletons of the horned dinosaur and of the Zeglodon. I was particularly interested in the anthropological department. Here are glass cases filled with life-size wax models of the Aborigines of North and South America and the Eskimos of Alaska, showing them engaged in their regular occupations, together with their utensils, weapons, implements, dwellings, etc. At 6 o'clock, I went to Mr. Cornett's office to get my box. After eating my supper on the bank of the North Bay, I went to the women's building to change my dress for the evening. On the way there, I stopped to look at the equestrian group south of the building. This is called The Challenge and consists of an American Indian astride a barebacked pony. The Indian has checked his horse and brandishes his spear in challenge to some adventurous brave of a hostile war party. Before I was dressed to go to the New York State Building, it began to rain, and there followed one of the grandest natural displays of electrical and water effects it has ever been my fortune to witness. The flagstaff on the women's building was shattered by lightning, though we did not know it until afterwards. All of the lights on the grounds were extinguished, and the dining room of the New York State Building was flooded. Therefore, the reception was given up. After the storm subsided, a partial reception was held in the women's building, and we had a pleasant time. I met Mrs. John Miller Horton, president of the Board of Women Managers, and made the acquaintance of 4 New York teachers, one of whom, Ms. Sullivan, gave me her card and invited me to call upon her should I ever visit New York. During the evening, I explored the building. It is a frame structure, formerly the home of the Country Club. It contains the official quarters of the Board of Women Managers and a number of beautiful tea rooms and reception rooms, all opening into a large hall. On the 2nd floor are reading, writing, dressing, and resting rooms for women visitors. I left the grounds about midnight.